If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. A simple topic today. What is it about Flat Earth? What is it about Flat Earth that all these triggered dunning-kruger goofs come out of the woodwork in much higher numbers than usual? I mean, look at all these YouTubers popping up, pretending that they debunk Flat Earth with just endless videos, pretending that their scientism appeals are actually legitimate and they actually debunk something when obviously they didn't. Again, I'm not claiming the Earth is flat in any way, but I do promote adherence to the scientific method with clear, dependent, independent variables and controls, so that way you're not engaging in scientism, the cult of authority worship, and you're actually doing legitimate science. And your experiments would legitimately prove one way or another whether the Earth is flat or a spinning globe or what have you. So what I find quite curious, psyop or not, regardless if flat Earth is a psyop or not, isn't it weird how there's so many goofs coming out of the woodwork getting triggered by flat Earth or people discussing flat Earth to the point where they're creating all these countless social media accounts, to the point where they're making all these endless videos, because you would expect that from kooky conspiracy theorists, right? I mean, going back to David Icke, the reptilian alien, interdimensional alien demons or whatever. I mean, not just him, but there's other people that have conspiracy theories. You know, they write books, they have YouTube channels. That's kind of expected, right? Now, how many of those theories, let's go reptilian alien theory. Let's say there's a theory that the president is some kind of reptilian shape-shifting alien. How many social media accounts were created to, quote unquote, debunk that particular theory? I mean, how many, really? 1, 2, 0? I don't know. They're not popping up all over the place like all these triggered goofs regarding flat Earth. And obviously these triggered goofs, if they really were, see, you could tell they're not about the truth because they're only about being anti-flat Earth, regardless of what the actual true model is. But I'll be getting into that even further in a moment. As always, if you enjoy the MindShock podcast, want to help support logic and reason in a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. If you're still not getting notifications, just like and comment on more videos because that's how the YouTube algorithm works. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast requests. You can also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. You can also be a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. So yeah, the main point here is if so-called pro-science people really were pro-science, they would be pointing out the dangers of scientism. Instead, none of these goofs even mention scientism. Because you do have, however few, you do have advocates, police officer reform advocates who are calling out all the bad cops. And because obviously that's an insult to the institution of policing, and the good cops should be vocally against all the bad cops. Obviously, that's not a majority, and you don't hear a lot of that, but there's some of that. How much of that exists in science for scientism? I mean, it's all quite fascinating because scientism hinges on the hallucination that this religious cult of authority worship is doing science, but it's really obviously masquerade. It's a poor man's masquerade. I mean, anybody doesn't have some kind of mental disability can really see through this. But of course, the gullible goofs, the coincidence theorists who just believe everything they see on the idiot box, they can't see through it. But yeah, scientism hinges on this masquerade that nobody exposes, that they're pretending to do science and being scientific is actually nothing more than a religious cult. Blind faith in so-called authorities, infallible and or corrupt humans with horrible track records of failure, no less, and inaccuracy. Just, crack a history book. But anyway, all of this is fairly obvious. Nobody's calling out scientism. So that's how you know whether or not someone's a legitimate scientist or not, just the same way whether someone's a good cop or not. If they're going to denounce all the corrupt bad cops, then that's one of the good apples. if they're just going to turn their head, walk away, hide behind the blue wall, I mean, even if they're not actually corrupt themselves, they're not standing up for honesty, integrity, and actual peace officer policing in accordance with the law. All very, very obvious. So what's curious is that flat Earth, I mean, this is just one of the most triggering, if not the most triggering topic, mud flood being another one. And that's a curiosity. There really aren't that many anti-mud flood channels. There's a couple, but there aren't that many. With flat Earth, you have an endless array of goofs, and these are clearly the wrong people to discuss this. Again, if you've checked out any of the logical analyses on MINDSHOCK, it seems like there's a concerted effort to recruit flat earthers. Like Bryant Myers is one of the greatest flat earth recruiters of all time because he defended the globe so poorly. And there's actually going to be a new dunning-kruger champion in flat earth debate, which I will be releasing shortly. The fallacy counter broke again, so I gotta repeat that, repair that, get those glitches sorted before I can get that podcast going. But I'll be doing that shortly. But yeah, goofs like Bryant Myers, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye the Science Guy. I mean, who are these other goofs? McToon, Simon Dan, so-called Professor Dave, who's actually not a professor. Again, if you look at the definition of professor, you can teach at a college and not be a professor. But of course, the goofs don't even know the definitions of professors, obviously. Yeah, all these goofs are they're such phenomenal flat earth recruiters because they defend the heliocentric globe, even if it's true. Again, I am not claiming anything is true or untrue. This is MINDSHOCK, where the motto is, of course, the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. People have asked me about my opinion on whether the Earth is flat or globe. But, I mean, I choose not to believe. Belief is the enemy of knowing. If I can't do a legitimate experiment to prove it either way, why would I even advocate for any model? How would I know it to be the truth if I don't know it to be the truth? So it's almost like a waste of time in that regard. But as for developing logic and reason, I mean, this is probably the best topic ever. And psychology, because you see all these triggered goofs coming out of the woodwork. Now, one theory is, of course, it's not that the heliocentric globe wouldn't be true. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, no, flat earthers don't need to get mad at me. Just for the sake of argument, let's say the heliocentric globe is the true model. Now, since the theory has so many holes in it, it's basically Swiss cheese. That doesn't mean it's not true, but it's Swiss cheese. It's so poorly explained, and the wrong people are discussing the subject matter. Because all these clueless goofs don't even have a basic grasp on even the scientific method or how logic works. So, I mean, they don't even know about precipitation. They think if the Earth were flat, you'd be able to see Mount Everest from anywhere in the world. I mean, these clueless goofs who don't even understand what a basic visibility index, these clueless goofs who don't know the difference between an apparent horizon and a true horizon. I mean, just the level of goofery put out. I mean, these are all flat earth recruiters because if they're defending it so poorly, it lends legitimacy to the flat earth model in the minds of many. I'm not saying it does, but again, burden of proof is on positive claims. So if you can't prove your claim, the Earth is a heliocentric globe, you shouldn't be discussing it. And if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So yeah, that's really the issue here. So all of these flat earth recruiters arguing on the side of the globe Earth, the unintentional comedy, unless it is intentional, if they're actually agents specifically employed to create flat earth membership by defending the globe model so poorly, again, regardless of whether the Earth is a heliocentric globe or a flat plane, this works in either model. Because if the New World Order has some kind of an agenda to destabilize and all of this, regardless of the shape of the Earth, this is useful. So they could employ a psyop of this nature. Again, regardless of what the shape of the Earth is, the agenda would still be met, regardless of the shape. Is it possible that the so-called powers that be actually don't know what the shape of the Earth is? I don't know. I don't want to go off on that tangent. People kind of assume that the powers that be actually know everything. I mean, they might know more than the average goof watching the Idiot Box, but yeah, I mean, if there are certain rules of this reality, perhaps they don't know. But anyway, going back to the main point here, it's just like an endless stream of goofs coming out of the woodwork to create social media channels. And I mean, the amount of time, if Flat Earth really is that dumb, they spend so much time on all of these Flat Earth discussions and videos, just slinging insults. I mean, some of them probably have mental disabilities. I mean, McToon, I mean, I just, it's tough. I can't even make fun of that guy because clearly he's got some kind of severe mental disability. So, I don't want to say anything, insulting his argumentation, because if he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand anything about anything, why are you going to hold him to a certain standard where, you're actually going to take anything he says seriously, because the mental capacity is just not there. So a lot of other guys in that department as well. I mean, there's plenty of people on the flat earth side as well. But again, those attempting to defend the heliocentric globe, these triggered goofs, they don't even know the basics of the scientific method. They don't even understand basic logic and reason. So clearly, they're the worst possible people to be discussing this. I mean, I don't know how any of the intelligent heliocentric globers, either they're utterly embarrassed or they can't stop laughing. They think it's hilarious how these clueless goofs come out of the woodwork to defend the globe, but they do such a horrible job because they don't even understand the side of the scientism cult. It's like somebody arguing for a particular religion, but they don't even have an understanding of the religious scrolls properly. Like Brian Myers, I mean, he didn't even know the basics. If you haven't checked out that debate, I mean, it's long. The analysis is over 9 hours. I go point by point for those interested. Again, for me, this isn't even about flat earth. This is about logic and logical argumentation. That's why I find it fascinating. The exact subject being discussed, I mean, it happens to be flat earth, but that's not really, I would still be doing this for any subject. Like, if they did more mud flood debates, I'd probably do that too. I would do it for any subject that clearly illustrates issues with logic and psychology, because that's what I find fascinating. That's why the whole MINDSHOCK podcast exists. Whether it's true crime, the paranormal, or conspiracies, just the dearth of logic and reason that exists, not just on the internet, but in the world by most people. It's such an issue. And obviously, I'll do my part to bring that forward. And again, everybody's always rushing to conclusions, which is another issue. Most people, their ego has them on such short strings that they're either too mentally weak to realize the possibility that they were fooled regarding a conclusion, or they just don't have the mental capacity to even understand. They don't have enough information to logically come to any conclusion. And this goes for a lot of issues. This isn't just about flat earth. So what I find the most curious is just how triggering a topic flat earth is. So is it because these triggered goofs just realize that the globe earth narrative has so many holes in it? It's like Swiss cheese. Again, even if it's true, it's still like Swiss cheese. And that's why they're getting so triggered, because they know that all of these points have serious problems and it's not scientific. Their belief is religious. And that triggers them to no end, because they're much more religious than any Christian or Muslim or whoever. All of these religions, the Abrahamic religions, Buddhism, whatever, all these other religious people, these scientism cultists getting triggered by flat earthers, they're far more religious and hopelessly indoctrinated into the cult of scientism and statism than any religious person. That's also what I find absolutely hilarious. And their dunning-kruger is so off the charts, and their ego has them on such short strings, they can't even understand what I just said. Like, they can't even consider that as possibly being true. That's also what's absolutely hilarious in some of these online discussions. These goofs don't even have the mental capacity, or they do, and their ego just has them so blinded, which is hilarious in its own right, because the Dunning-Kruger stylings that spew forth from such goofs, I mean, it's just really, really hilarious if you find that kind of thing funny, which I do. So, yeah, I mean, big thanks to all the Dunning-Kruger goofs in the comment sections, in the live chats, and all over social media, either that have entertained me with their goofery or just entertaining others with their goofery. It's pretty funny. Why not have a good laugh while learning and promoting logic and reason? So is there any other topic, or is there any other conspiracy out there, whether it's reptilian aliens, whether it's underground tunnels? I mean, how many people are creating YouTube channels specific and making all these videos specifically to debunk underground alien bases, reptilian alien shapeshifters? I mean, any of these conspiracy theories, either true or not true. And yet, with flat Earth, you have so-called professional debunkers, so-called skeptics. Obviously, they're not true skeptics. They're not skeptical of anything coming from corrupt authorities on the idiot box. They're only skeptical about anyone that blasphemes against their religious cult of scientism. And then you also have just random goofs. You have triggered teenagers coming out of the woodwork, making YouTube channels against being anti-flat Earth, as opposed to actually objective, logical, and neutral and searching for the truth. I mean, am I really I can't be the only channel out there that's actually objective. I mean, again, it's not really about the conclusion. It's about, are people getting to where they are logically? Are they able to reason? If you haven't checked out the MindShock podcast, Metacognition, Thinking About Thinking, I think it's probably one of the most important podcasts I've ever done, because it re-examines how you think. How many people actually take a moment and want to understand why they think the way they think and how they came to hold the ideas they hold? And if they're mentally strong enough, if their ego doesn't have them on such short strings as to re-examine their beliefs for validity instead of just hallucinating and assuming they already have to be right. Because that's 99% of people on the internet. And certainly 99% of heliocentric globe believers. And I mean, the only other thing too, like a lot of these scientism goofs, like that, obviously they don't understand the numbers. Like, how much money does Neil deGrasse Tyson make? Because they chastise so-called conspiracy theorists, critical thinkers, whatever you want to call them. They chastise people saying, oh, they only have YouTube channels or they only write books for money. They're grifters. Are they really making more money than the scientism grifters? Are they really making more money than Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye? I mean, how much money is so-called Professor Dave making with his however many fake subs on YouTube with all the ads and everything? How much money is that goof making? So does that magically not hold true for all the anti-flat earthers making all of these social media channels? Do they really not care about the shape of the earth, and they're just grifting? They're just grifters taking advantage of a popular topic. Flat earth happens to be pretty popular. Again, true or untrue, it's a popular topic. So yeah, I mean, those are just the points I wanted to throw out. Short one today. All the mind shockers can chime in. The ultimate question here: are there this many triggered goofs coming out of the woodwork for any other conspiracy theory? I mean, dinosaurs aren't real. That's a popular one. How many people are specifically creating YouTube channels and all these YouTube accounts and just trolling all these different conspiracy theorist channels, attempting or pretending that they debunked it? There might be one or two. I think I saw one. But with Flat Earth, it's just an endless stream of triggered dunning-kruger goofs. These scientifically illiterate, completely lacking any kind of English comprehension. Again, that's why I keep going back to it. It has to be a psyop. Like, are there really that many dumb people out there? Can they actually be intellectually honest in how poor these defenses of the heliocentric globe are? I mean, it almost doesn't seem real that these people could be that dumb in the way they argue for the heliocentric globe, in the way they pretend they actually debunked certain flat earther points. Now, of course, certain flat earther points aren't legitimate and they're easy to debunk. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the dozens and dozens of points that have yet to be refuted. Obviously, some goofs are going to ask, oh, well, what points are those? Oh, the flat earth points are easily refuted. Well, by refuted, you mean, what does that mean? Proving it couldn't be flat? Because most of the points, you wouldn't know the answer anyway, because none of it proves globe or flat earth. So, I mean, I've gone over those point by point on the analyses. You could check those out, so I'm not going to go through all that again. I have a whole bunch of flat earth debates up. Check them out. A whole bunch more coming, because again, this is really one of the best, if not the best topic to develop logic and reason and psychological understanding of the basic human mind. So that's it for now. Hope everybody found another edition of the MindShock podcast interesting and informative. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.